Hello and welcome to another episode of the Connection Compass podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Louise Evans. On Monday, the 20th of October, I am holding an event in Manchester, building safer spaces to thrive through the holistic lens. If you are interested in leadership, an aspiring leader, or are interested in culture change, please check the show notes for further details. At that event will be today's podcast guest, Jack Nolan, delivering his inspirational talk, Section to Success. Jack is one of the Northwest's youngest and most inspiring motivational speakers on mental health. Jack, at 19, was diagnosed with bipolar, but instead of letting that define him, he chose a different path, one of self-discovery, growth, and using his voice to inspire others. In this conversation, Jack shares the pivotal moments of his journey from being sectioned at 19 to diving into personal development at an early age, to finding glimpses of his authentic self in unexpected places. We explore what it means to trust the journey even when the path ahead isn't clear, why mental health doesn't define us, and how Jack has turned his passion into a mission to help others. Hi, Jack. Welcome to the Connection Compass. How are you today? Are you okay?
I'm good, thank you, Andrea. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with yourself today.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to our chat. Where did this journey start for you? So you're out there, you're speaking around mental health, you're very inspirational, very motivational. Where does it start for you, this journey?
Well, this journey starts for me when I was probably about 19 years old. I got, unfortunately, depending on how you're looking at it, it was a curse or a blessing. I ended up getting sectioned for the first time in my life, which then changed my, direction in life. And whilst I was in that hospital, I was giving like inspirational talks to the other patients in there to try and like help myself. But whilst helping myself, I was helping others. So I was connecting with them. I was saying to them things like, "You've got the spirit of a lion," and that's when doctors would pull me to one side and say, "Jack, do you actually believe that you're a lion?" I said, "No, don't be daft. I'm not Mufasa or Simba. I just believe we've all got the spirit of a lion, haven't we? To go after what we want in life, whether that be our dreams, goals, or aspirations." So that's where it all came back to fundamentally. That journey of speaking was when I was in hospital with the doors closed and the key that felt like it was locked and threw away. But it was just that I was in a bit of a bad mindset, even though I was trying to do good, because I was locked in a cage in my head mentally and physically in the environment. I felt like I was in a cage as well. So it was my way of trying to shine a North Star on the situation by saying, "Look, we might be here right now, but when we get out, we have got great things to achieve and we've got great lives to live."
So, Jack, did you have those beliefs beforehand?
I dabbled in personal development, I'm not going to lie. Like when I was 15, my dad gave me a book called Tony Robbins' Notes from a Friend. And that's when I learned about personal development at the age of about 15, 16. I
Right.
started getting really like invested into it because I wanted to better my life as best as I could. And that's when I learned about the KFC guy who failed it 1,009 times. And that really inspired me and has always stuck with me that you're 1,009 no's away from an opportunity, fundamentally, sometimes when you think about it.
Mhm. So, when you look back at that moment and obviously you're unwell, you're not, you're not feeling well, you're not feeling yourself, and you still have these inspiration moments where you're talking yourself. It's almost like you're talking yourself through it,
Absolutely.
really. And I mean that's amazing. How do you see that? Do you see that as you talking yourself, inspiring yourself to get out? Like, what am I trying to say? Like almost
Like
coaxing yourself out of it,
coaching.
really.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, I'm really lucky that, my dad passed on this book to me and he really reinforced, like my family reinforced positive beliefs into me as a young kid to like push me to like create that confidence because I wasn't always the confident person that you see me as today. I was really shy as a kid, really scared, really nervous. And, everything felt like a challenge. But when I realized that, you can make things happen in life, you can write books, you can speak, you can share the stage with corporate stages, you can do almost anything if you are in the right mindset, heart's in the right place, and you start to focus and build towards that goal and that aspiration that you have for yourself in life, even when you're in a dark place, because them goals that I had for myself are written down on the hospital whiteboard. I'll speak for corporate, I'll do this, I'll do that. And that's when the doctors would say, this is delusional, grandiose behavior, part of your illness, bipolar. And I just ignored that. I mean, I thought, no, I will show you, I will get myself there and I'll do the best I can to the best of my ability to move forward.
It it almost sounds like your true and authentic self was coming through even though you were unwell.
Yeah, there was flashes of it, even though I was really poorly.
Yeah,
But that's what I mean. My reality sort of hit for me in the first episode that I experienced was when a patient in the hospital said that it was said out loud that I was in a mental asylum. When he said them words, mental asylum, it really like shocked me, made me realize where I was. Because before that happened, I was running around like I was in Alice in Wonderland, thinking that I seen Jesus Christ, the three wise men, lots of scary, surreal moments. But when he said them words, mental asylum, it really like shook me up into a reality and made me realize this is where I am. And the first thing I did was I'll call my mum and dad. And I was like, Mum, Dad, I can't believe you put me in there with these people, essentially. But there was nothing wrong with them people other than the fact that they was poorly themselves, just like me. So I had to really dig deep and find my way out of the dark. And through finding my way out of the dark, that positive mindset started to shine through. It started to like a little seed that started to grow. And then from that, it turned me into the person that I am today, even though it's been about coming up to nearly 9 years that I was probably last in hospital. So
that's
it's,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's quite a big journey that I've been on. But again, sometimes you can't see how you're going to get there, but you've just got to trust the process that you will get there. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Even if things don't work out the way you want them to, because I've had
mm,
like my setbacks, I've had my rejections, I've had my metaphorical kick in the teeth with opportunities that I've been chasing throughout my young 20s. But it's the lessons that you learn from all them experiences that do shape you into the person you are and do shape your mindset. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
So in when you started to want to speak about it, was was that after your second relapse? Or what?
it was in between. So after my first episode, I ended up finding the courage to just put a camera on and tell the world what happened to me. And then I put it on YouTube and I shared it on Facebook and Instagram. And then I started sharing my story more and more and more to the point where a friend was doing a dissertation. He said, can I film my dissertation on you? Started like, oh, bloody hell. Okay. So we did like a mini documentary. You know, he interviewed my family, he interviewed me and I took him on a journey with my story at that time and where I was up to. But facing that was just as big as getting on the stage because
Yeah.
it was letting the world know I'm not perfect. I've got a problem and I'm trying to deal with it. So
Mm.
that was really hard because I felt like the stigma just sort of flipped overnight. Like one minute I was normal Jack to the world. And then the day later I was Jack, the kid who went through a psychosis episode. Jack, the kid who's got bipolar. Jack, the kid who, you know, wasn't normal in the eyes of society or just the happy-go-lucky kind of guy that I believed I was. So that was a big challenge for me to be able to overcome that hurdle. And then shortly after that, my mum worked in a school at the time. So that's what I was really lucky to be able to have the opportunity to speak to the young kids and share my story. So that was like my first big step towards building that confidence to share
Yeah.
what's going on in the real world, you could say.
And the reason behind the sharing, so is it about moving away from stigma and saying to people, "This happened to me," and, you know, we want to move away from those stigmas? What do you feel the driving force is?
Well, that is a part of the message that we can break down stigmas and that they don't define us, we define ourselves. For example, you
Mhm.
know, I am Jack first, bipolar second. Sometimes I forget and I think it's the other way around. Sometimes I think I'm just bipolar. But I have
Yeah.
to remind myself that I am Jack first and foremost. And bipolar is just an illness that I'm managing on a day to day basis. So I
Yeah.
have to remind myself of that. And
Yeah.
then there's the the focus to remind everyone that everyone's normal is different and that we can bounce back from adversity and rebuild our lives, whether that be professionally or personally. it doesn't matter. We can rebuild, reshape, and regrow ourselves into the people that we want to be in life.
Mm. I really love what you're saying, and it's just perfect for the podcast because that's what the podcast is about. Is it's seeing beyond what you see, and obviously for you, we wouldn't know that you had bipolar unless you told us you told
Absolutely.
those stories. But you're more than that. You're more than that diagnosis. It's had a huge impact on your life, hasn't it? Both good and
Yeah, yeah, of
not so
course. The good
good,
and bad.
but yeah, but what you were saying it's a blessing and a a bit of a blessing, bit of a curse, bit of both.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to you. You've got so much more to give. So I love it.
Oh, thank you, Andrea.
Let's do it. And I when you go and speak, in your view, what do you feel people get out of that? What's the impact of people listening to you speak?
Essentially, and it sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's like saving people's lives. I feel like a bit of a hero at times because the conversations that I have after my events when I speak are so powerful because people open up to me things that they've never opened up about before. And it
Okay.
really reignites me to realize that there is value in what I do. Okay, I might not be a millionaire, I might not be ultra successful yet, as some people would say. But, I do believe that every conversation matters and a conversation costs nothing and it can always lead to something, whether that's making someone feel better just a little bit or making someone feel normal, whatever their version of normal is. Because I'm like a young man, not a lot of young men speak out about what we do and what goes on behind the scenes of bipolar. So some of the people in the audience are old enough to be my parents, and they can relate and go, "Oh, well, my son Jonah is going through this, and I don't know how to navigate this situation. What would you advise?" Or I'm personally facing these challenges in my life. You're so wise for your age. How did you do it? Well, when you go through stuff, you just get that little bit wiser, don't you? You know what I mean? You
Mm.
start to learn from the pain and push yourself towards the prize. Metaphorically speaking, of course, because the prize is for me, it's being able to do it as much as I possibly can to make that difference and be able to get my independence from the back of that.
And what prevents people from speaking
Yeah.
out about their experiences, do you feel?
Well, I feel like as a man, it can be shame, stigma, fear, anxiety. Am I going to be judged? Are my friends going to accept me? Are my family members going to accept me? Are my romantic partners going to accept me? You know, it's a big thing because people fear not being accepted because we're tribal sort of people, aren't we? At the end of the day, humans are tribal since the caveman times. We've all sat around the fire and shared stories and connected. So people fear losing that connection with the world, I think, especially with the close loved ones and the friends, and they don't want to be seen as weak, especially with men, because we all want to be like masculine and show our strength, and whether that be physicality or mentally or even professionally. A lot of people don't want to show weakness, like chinks in their armor. So that's why people don't want to share, in my opinion. But at the same time, it depends how you define your strength. And I think my strength comes from being able to have the courage to talk about it because at the end of the day, it's people out there struggling, suffering, and making decisions to try and stop things going wrong in their lives. You know what I mean? They're trying to stop these emotions from overwhelming them to the point where they make decisions where they want to end their own life. And that's really sad. And just
Mm.
it feels like we're fighting a war that's invisible sometimes. And I want to be a part of leading the charge to combat that war to save as many people as we can. But there's not just only me who's doing stuff like this. There's great other speakers out there. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to say I'm the best in the West, but I believe that I'm a part of that movement in terms of helping shaping culture one step, one day, one speech, one talk, one podcast, one opportunity at a time to make people realize that there's so much more to life and they've got value essentially. They have the value. They've got the power is literally in their hands to be able to make their lives that little bit better. And there's no shame in being able to talk about the emotions that we all experience on the journey of life. Because if we don't, then how can we connect and learn from each other?
Mm. And I think you are a very powerful speaker. I think you've got great energy, like when you speak. And where do you think that comes from? Do you Is it an energy that you prepare to step into, or do you think it's just that this topic is just so strong and embedded and passionate for you that that's where that energy comes from?
Well, believe it or not, I was a quiet kid. I know people might look at me and think, "You bet you never shut up as a kid. You never stopped talking." You know what I mean? You should have a glass eye to sleep. But again, from that being shy, scared, nervous, as an adult, I've embraced the opposite side to the coin of that, which is being yourself, being confident, being authentic, and not being afraid to say it how it is and be real. So I try my best to align myself with that. And I think the energy comes from just like a passion and like a hunger to succeed, but to succeed in the right way. Because early on in my life, I was trying to succeed the wrong way and achieve something called what I like to call success. So that success is what led me down the path to self-destructing, getting put in hospital, and just losing the plot really. 'Cause I was so
Yeah.
hungry, so determined that I let the world beat me and myself self-destruct.
Mm.
But I've learned from that now, and I know that I've got to try my best to focus and be the best person I can be, not for anybody else, but for me.
And would you mind sharing a little bit about what that looked like leading up to
Yeah, 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 of
like
course. Yeah. So on
yeah.
the lead up to me becoming unwell the first time round, I like to say I was running so fast like Usain Bolt that I lost that metaphorical oxygen to breathe. And
Mm,
I was so fast, so manic, so fierce that I was spinning so many plates from university, relationships, to friendships, to trying to be there for my family, to working in the industry, working with like Lorraine Kelly, Amir Khan, and Team GB, and going from production company to production company, and then everything I wanted to do, I was achieving. So on paper, I looked like a success, but in reality, I was self-destructing because I didn't realize what mental health was, and I didn't realize how fast the mind can think, believe, and become.
mm,
But it was becoming completely like toxic and going down a dark rabbit hole
mm,
that led to me and my demise, becoming unwell.
mm.
So
Would you explain that as perhaps a disconnection from yourself, of forgetting about yourself and
yeah, yeah,
putting
yeah.
everything first before you
Yeah, I
take
wasn't making
care of
any
you?
time for myself. It was like one job finished, another one began, and there was no in between. It was always move, 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 fast, fast, fast. And it was just me or one man band. Didn't have a team around me or anything like that to
Mm,
put that past that pressure on and then pass that stress onto. It was just me
mm,
creating my own luck, as I like to say. I still like to say that to this day, to create your own opportunities, but managing the stress of the world on your shoulders at a young age and the pressure of university and then trying to get a first and trying to do this and trying to do that and just non-stop regimental, like a military operation for
mm,
yourself. It was it was challenging, but I didn't know I had undiagnosed bipolar as well. So all that
mm,
stress I was putting on myself was just
mm.
making myself more and more ill. So that's something that I didn't realize could
And
happen.
do you think in terms of the pressure of wanting to succeed, was that coming from you, do you think? Or was there an external part to it as well, that the pressure was external to you?
It was a mix of both, but primarily probably myself because I'm an ambitious person and I wanted to have like my own company and take on the world. And, you know, when you're a young man or a young person, you have this bit of a chip on your shoulder to sort of prove to people, especially when you come from a past of being bullied, being told you'll never be successful, all these different messages that you've heard. And with a mix of positive psychology, you start to believe in yourself. But it's
Yeah.
like the force, and it's like the light side and the dark side. And I started to tend towards the dark side of this metaphorical force in like Star Wars, you could say, that then led to me self-destructing and becoming delusional.
Could I ask you as well, that when you were poorly the first time and then when you got poorly the second time, in between, did you find yourself going into the old ways of being, of moving too quickly?
It was more from the standpoint of, well, it was a bit of a mix of different things. I'll speak. about the first one. So the first one was my medical professional at the time that I was speaking to said, Jack, you had one episode, you can come off the medication and you might be okay for the rest of your life. It's up to you to make that decision, whether you want to come off it or not. So I stopped taking the medication. That was the first thing that I did wrong. And the second thing, what I did wrong was I started to get caught up in the hype of micro success as
Mhm.
I was achieving things like getting my first book published, having a publishing partner, selling out to 100 people in my local area, and I believing that I was more than what I was. And then that sort of became a snowball effect of me just going out all the time, socializing more than what I normally would, drinking, even though I probably shouldn't have at the time, but I did. So I can't rewrite history. And from that, I went out all the time, all the time, all the time, to the point where I was becoming manic and hanging around the wrong people at the time, where I became paranoid and then became really delusional and manic, and the illness started to creep in and really take over my life for the second time round. Before I even could blink, I was thrown back into the hospital for the second time round, and I knew that something was wrong. I knew that something was wrong with me. So I reached out for help. I told my parents, and they knew something wasn't right as well because my behavior was erratic, manic, and very unwell. So from there, I had to just reset and get back put in hospital for the second time around, the mental nick, as I like to say. But it was the best possible place for me because that was where I had to rebuild, restructure myself, reset, get the help that I needed.
Mhm. You're just amazing, really, aren't you? Just amazing. What was your first book?
My first book was called On the Job. So that was a bit of a metaphor for life as well, in it, that I was always on the job trying to make something happen. My second book was Dead Ends. So again, went into a bit of a dead end in my life at that point. And my third book was Dead Ends Rise Up. So I tried my best to rise up and make the best impact I possibly could.
And I can't believe how much you've done. How much you've done, and in a short space of time. And you've got through your illness, and you're able to impact. So when you were younger, you wanted to work in TV production. So how do you feel about that now? And would it be something that you want to do or again, or what are your thoughts?
It's a brilliant question. I've never been asked that before in a podcast, so I do appreciate the question. I don't think I ever would go back into the TV production life because when you're a runner and you're starting out as a runner, it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's just non-stop. You're just taking on the weight of the world for everybody else. The stress can get quite intense because you've got so much stuff going on, so many responsibilities. And then in a way, in a way, like I love the storytelling element of it all. The exciting stuff that you see on the TV, the cinematic shots, the storytelling, the meaning, the connection, the powerful influence that it had on the world to be able to share stories that can excite, ignite, and empower. So that was something that I was really passionate about. So I started writing scripts. I mean, I've always been creative, you write a book and then you end up writing a script just because you feel like, why not? And you've got a story to tell, you just go for it. So a little bit later, a few years after getting section the second time, my ambition was to try and get a film made. So in a way, I felt like I've already worked in that industry, but for myself, with the backing of a VC at the time, a venture capitalist investor. It didn't work out in the end, but I had 2 years of running things off my own energy with a little bit of support from the investor at the time. So it was an exciting opportunity. I had my own office. I felt like a mini boss, like waking up every day, like with a purpose to be able to do something that I'm passionate about. And I had to put together like production companies, have meetings, and have all these exciting people on board with me to make my dreams become a reality, essentially. But a week before going into production, the investor pulled out and we lost a significant investment, and well, the rest is history, really. But what I learned from that is I can make things happen off my own energy. If I want something, I can pull things together. So that
Yeah.
it created that confidence from within, even though things didn't go right at the end, I still managed to put myself in that position to win.
Mm.
So I have to carry that mindset on to everything else that I do in life and remind myself what a great mentor said to me is that experience is what you win when you lose.
I think your story and the things that you're telling and the messages that you're putting out there, I do think it's really important for today's younger people of today because there is a lot of negative talk out there that it's very difficult to do things and you're not going to be able to do this because there's no opportunity. But there is, isn't there? You
Yeah,
just have to make it. And sometimes things take a long time. And, you
absolutely.
know, the connection work that I do is going into its 8th year. It's just like,
Fantastic.
if someone had said to me 8 years ago, "This is gonna take you 8 years," I'd have been like, "No way." But it's what you learn on the way, isn't it? And the people that you meet that shape
Absolutely.
you, and then what you learn, it creates other opportunities and things. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from you, Jack.
100%.
And so what are your plans for the future?
So my plan for the future is to continue waving the flag of mental health, inspiration, and motivation. Really trying to empower people that it's okay not to be okay, and support people as best as I possibly can. I've been thinking about some ideas this week. How can I move forward? How can I get that regular income in? Through supporting people in the best way I can. So I've been thinking about some exciting things that I'm gonna hopefully pursue soon, just to test the waters. It'd just be an extension of what I am and what I do to be able to make a positive impact in the world. So
Yeah.
always moving, always thinking, always trying.
And I think you've got to test the waters, haven't you? If you have an idea, you've got to test the waters because you never know where it's gonna lead you, don't you? You don't know if
Absolutely.
you don't try. And final message, I guess, what do you want to say? What do you want to put out there?
Every conversation costs nothing and it can always lead to something, whether that be better mental health, better connection, better relationship, better opportunity, a better life.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here, Jack. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Andrea. Thank you for the opportunity.
I found the conversation with Jack incredibly insightful and also inspiring. Jack's determination to succeed and his passion for life really shines, really inspires, and I hope it inspires you too. Jack will be speaking at the Building Safer Spaces for People to Thrive event in Manchester on Monday, the 20th of October. If you're interested in that, please check the show notes. I wanted to include something on mental health in that event because we know that over the past decade, mental health problems amongst young people have risen dramatically, sparking concerns from parents, policymakers, and mental health professionals. There has been over a 3 million increase in working age individuals self-reporting long-term health conditions, with the sharpest rise being in those aged 16 to 34. Mental health referrals for children and young people aged 10 to 24 now accounts for a staggering 45% of the overall disease burden, with suicide tragically the second leading cause of death. So the more we understand and the more we know about mental health issues and we learn about people's experiences, the more we can prepare our place of work and the places that we live and to help and support young people in today's modern world that is often found to be fragmented, disconnected, and jarring. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of The Connection Compass. If you think it will help someone else, please leave a review. If you have any questions, please visit Andrea 11's Facebook page and remember to keep talking, keep connecting for a more interconnected world.